Hello and welcome to the Vital Blend. My name is Anthony Vitas. So glad that you could join me for today's episode. I'm going to be introducing you here to Chris Wark, who at the very young age of 26 received a very grim diagnosis of stage 3C colon cancer. Now, while he did opt for surgery, he wasn't so quick to jump down the medical rabbit hole of traditional cancer treatments like chemotherapy. Now, initially, this was not a very easy choice, especially with his family and friends and even his own doctors saying that he was absolutely crazy for not totally trusting our current healthcare system. However, something unexpected happened to Chris that finally gave him hope. He went down a rabbit hole of overdosing on nutrition. That's right, he made food his medicine, and now 20 years later, Chris remains cancer-free. However, he'll tell you that he didn't beat cancer just by changing his food alone. There were many other areas of his life that he felt were just as toxic that he had to get handled in order to finally overcome his cancer diagnosis. Now, many years later, Chris is still spreading the word of hope to those living with cancer who may feel like a victim of their own genes, to let them know that they have hope in beating cancer just as he did. So right now, I want to introduce you to Chris Wark. Chris, thank you so much for joining the Vital Blend. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Anthony. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
Sure, sure. You know, it's been about 20 years now, right, since you battled cancer.
Almost
It is.
18 and some, yeah, 18 and some change. We're getting there. The
Yeah,
20 year anniversary, cancerversary is fast approaching.
yeah. So I want you to take us back to when you first felt like there was something wrong. What was that? And then just let's hear all about what happened after that.
So I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer when I was 26. That was December 2003. And in the months leading up to my diagnosis, for the better part of that year, I was having abdominal pain. So, just sort of weird, cramping kind of pain and dull, achy pains that would come and go. And uh, for most of the year, it was just sort of a minor annoyance. And, but it eventually progressed and got to be pretty debilitating. And that's when my wife finally talked me into going to see the doctor. And I was kind of referred around. They tried to figure out what was wrong, and eventually, they recommended me for a colonoscopy. So I went in and had that done, and they found a golf ball sized tumor in my large intestine. And when I woke up, they said, "Look, we took a biopsy. We're going to send it to the lab, and hopefully, it's not cancer." And a couple of days later, I got a call, and it was cancer. And so that was what started my cancer journey.
So yes, let's talk about that. You know, you're told that you have cancer. So what's going through your mind and what are the options that are presented to you?
Well, I mean, a cancer diagnosis is just a horrible, traumatic event in a person's life. In fact, it's well documented that just the diagnosis itself can cause PTSD. And so I definitely experienced the shock and dismay and despair and depression, like everything that comes with that kind of a diagnosis. I mean, they're basically saying, you have a life-threatening disease that is threatening to cut your life short. And being only 26, I was like, I just barely even gotten started
Right.
at adulthood. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I'd only been out of college a couple of years and was just getting going. I'd been married for 2 years and was in real estate, and I was building a business, and I was entrepreneurial and excited about that. And I was a musician. I was writing songs and playing shows and excited about that. Things were going great. It was sort of like the worst time ever to get cancer. It just derailed my entire life plan and everything I was excited about. So that was really tough. And the doctor said, we've got to get you into surgery right away and get this thing out of you before it spreads and kills you. And this was just a couple days before Christmas. I mean, they were trying to get me in before Christmas. And I was already just depressed about the whole situation. And I said, look, can we do it after Christmas? Because I just wanted sort of a normal Christmas with my family if I could have one. Definitely wasn't normal, but they postponed the surgery. I went in on December 30th. They took out a third of my large intestine. That's where the tumor was. When I woke up, they said, it's worse than we thought. It spread to your lymph nodes. We took out everything we could see, but you're going to need 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy. So that's when things went from bad to worse. Stage 2, colon cancer, at least at that time, the standard of care was surgery, and then you're done. Stage 3, you got to do chemo because cancer's been spreading. But it's kind of it's a lot of people don't know this about cancer, and I certainly didn't at the time. I mean, almost everything I know now, I didn't know then, right? Almost everything. I knew nothing about cancer when I was diagnosed. But cancer cells leave a primary tumor site before it's even big enough to detect on a scan. So if you've just got a tiny, tiny little cancerous lesion, cells are leaving that lesion and circulating in your blood and looking for new places in the body to set up camp and form tumors. So this idea that a cancerous tumor is fully self-contained is just false, right? So when they say we got it all, that's not possible, right? There's already cancer cells circulating in your body, and they have been for a long time. And fortunately, your immune system is designed to identify and eliminate cancer cells. And so for the vast majority of them, that's what it does. You have natural killer cells and T cells that kill cancer cells. So what the difference between a person who has tumors and a person who doesn't have tumors is largely due to the strength of their immune system, the effectiveness of their immune system. This is a key component, and we know now, well, in sort of the fringe of health and healing and medicine has known this since Hippocrates, right? That the body creates cancer and the body can heal it if given the proper nutrients and care. But in the conventional medical world, the immune system has always just sort of been dismissed until lately, when immunotherapies started to become the hot new drug class. They've started to realize, oh, wow, the person's immune system can actually kill cancer. Maybe we can harness the immune system. We stimulate the immune system to do this because it's not doing it. We don't know why it's not doing it. We're not trying to solve that problem. We're just trying to, supercharge it, so to speak, with drugs. But I digress. So I'm in the hospital and I'm recovering, and they brought me my first meal after my surgery, and that was a sloppy Joe.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know how much you love sloppy Joes.
I've heard of other people getting that too. And it's just, I can't know whether it's heart problems or cancer. It's just hard to believe that a hospital that's there to save you is feeding you the same foods that got you there.
Right. That was a wake-up call. I'd never been in the hospital before, but the sloppy Joe is like the worst cafeteria food possible. I mean, as far as I knew, they only serve sloppy Joes at like summer camp or the military, or if you're in prison, right? You're getting sloppy Joes.
Right.
Right.
And it's the worst quality meat too.
Yeah. 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 And I'm looking at it, I'm on some heavy pain medication, right? Heavy drugs, but they just plop this tray in front of me in my hospital bed with a sloppy Joe on it and some Jello or whatever. And I'm just like, golly, like, why are they serving this horrible food to sick people? They obviously, they just don't even care. Like the message is loud and clear. We don't care what you eat.
Right.
What you eat doesn't matter. That's the message. And a few days later, I was told you can go home today. And my surgeon came in to check on me, and we were just talking, and I said, hey, is there any food I need to avoid? Because in the back of my mind, they just cut out a third of my large intestine. Everything you eat is going through there, right? Going down the tube.
Mhm.
So, I just didn't want to make sure there wasn't any food that was like, oh, and whatever you do, don't eat hot sauce, or something. And he was like, no, just don't lift anything heavier than a beer.
Wow.
That was probably his little joke that he told all of his patients. And I was just like, really? Like, that's it? So again, more confirmation that in conventional medicine, there's no regard for nutrition, for health, for healthy living, right? It's called health care, but it turns out they don't really care about your health in the healthcare industry. What they care about is treating you with drugs or expensive medical procedures. That's what they care about. How can we make money off of sick people? Not how can we restore them to health, right? Yeah, sure, they want to prevent you from dying, of course. And I would certainly go to the hospital if I was in a car wreck or broken bone or somebody shot me, right? Stabbed me. Absolutely. Trauma care is where medicine is at its finest.
Right.
But the worst aspect of medicine is chronic disease care, chronic disease treatments, and especially with regard to cancer. They've failed horribly at curing most chronic diseases, which can be cured and healed with a radical change of your diet and lifestyle.
Yeah.
This is the message that I've been speaking about publicly for 12 years since I started chrisbeatcancer.com and experienced my own, incredible healing journey through cancer. So I get home from surgery. I, was sobering up, getting off the pain medication and thinking about my life and my future. And I was just thinking about chemotherapy, and I'd seen what chemo does to people.
Yeah.
And I saw myself, as a chemo patient, and I didn't like it. I didn't want to become that. And the idea of poisoning my way back to health didn't make sense. So I prayed about it. My wife and I are Christians, and we just prayed. And I said, God, if there's another way besides chemotherapy, please show me. And then 2 days later, I got a book that was sent to me from a man in Alaska who was a friend of my dad's. And this guy named Al sent me a book written by another guy. His name is George Malcolmus. And his book was all about his story, healing colon cancer with raw foods and juicing. And I start reading his book and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, this guy healed himself. He didn't have surgery, didn't have chemo, didn't have radiation, right? He changed his life and changed his diet. And that gave me so much hope. Just that one story. And, sometimes it just takes one person's story to change your life, right? To have a profound impact on your life. We don't need a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, right, to change our life.
That's right.
You just need sometimes just one person's story, one little spark of inspiration or hope. And for me, that was George Malcolmus. And so immediately I adopted a raw food diet. I just thought, well, if it helped him, maybe it could help me, right? And he was making a case in his book that the reason so many of us are sick is because of our diet and lifestyle choices, right? So you're not a powerless victim of disease, which is what the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry especially wants you to believe, right? You're powerless, you're helpless, you're hopeless, but we have a drug that can help you cope with your unfortunate health dilemma, right? We have drugs that can help you get through life with your disease. So I was empowered to change my life, and I was excited and enthusiastic, and I was like, let's go, right? Let's do this. So I immediately changed my diet to a raw food diet, all organic, all raw. I bought a juicer, started juicing carrots and beets and celery and, just all kinds of stuff, and drinking copious amounts of vegetable juice and eating giant bowls full of vegetables every day. And I just decided, you know what? I'm going to overdose on nutrition. That's what I'm going to do. I want to see what happens to my body if I just pump it full of raw vital nutrients from the earth that God made for us. And everybody else around thought I'd lost my mind.
I would, yeah. And like, what about your own, like your own doctor? What did he say about it?
Well, so I have to give credit to my mom because she was always kind of a health nut, and she understood uh, why I made the decision I did. And she was really the first person to support me in the beginning. My wife loves me so much, and we're still married. We've been married for over 20 years, but we were newlyweds, and she was really afraid I was going to die and thought I was making a huge mistake. And she kind of came from a family that went to the doctor for everything. And in my family, we just didn't really go to the doctor much. We just weren't really that way. So there was a lot of pressure from family members
Mm.
to, you've got to do exactly what they tell you to do. You have to do chemo, right? Don't you think if there was something better than chemo, they'd know about it? And, these are the kind of things people are saying to me. And I'm like, I don't know. They're just creating a lot of confusion and fear and doubt in my mind when I had such a clear answer to prayer. Like I just knew that this path was opened up for me. I asked for something and something came, right?
Right.
Like I didn't overthink it, right? I'm not like, oh, it's just a coincidence. No, I asked for something and something came. And that thing that came, that option, that opportunity, that new path made so much sense to me that I just knew this was it. This is what I've got to do. But I had a lot of pressure, of course, and I went to see this oncologist that I had been referred to, and the meeting did not go well. He was condescending and arrogant and really just pretty robotic, just sort of an emotionless shell of a person. And he basically said, look, you've got a 60% chance of living 5 years with treatment. And I asked him, oh, are there any alternative therapies available? And he said, no, if you don't do chemotherapy, you're insane. So, and then he just proceeded to just try to talk me into it. And he did talk me into it. By the end of the appointment, we walked out of that little room. I went to the desk and I made an appointment to get a port put in to start chemotherapy in a few weeks. I was still recovering from surgery. And the crazy thing is now, well, even then, most patients are rushed into treatment before they even understand what's happening to them, right? I was basically rushed into surgery, but most patients, I mean, they'll get them on chemo within a day or two of their diagnosis. I just met with a woman this past weekend. She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in the hospital, and they told her she needed to start chemotherapy right away before they even knew what type of cancer she had. Think about that.
Yeah.
They didn't even know what kind of cancer she had. And they said she and her husband were like, well, her husband said, what, well, how do you know what kind of chemotherapy to give her if you don't know what kind of cancer? And the answer they got was, well, this is just standard protocol.
Wow.
Like, that's insane. That is egregious medical malpractice to give a cancer patient just any old chemo drug and cross your fingers and see if it works, right? That's medical experimentation. Mm-hmm. Knowing what we know about chemotherapy drugs, there are definitely drugs that are specific for different specific types of cancer, right? So this happens all the time. Patients are rushed into treatment before they know what's happening to them, and the treatments are brutal and destructive. And once you get on that chemo train, it's very hard to get off because they put so much fear into you. And the fear is if you stop treatment, you're going to die. Okay, well, can you guarantee I'm going to live if I continue treatment? No, can't guarantee you're going to live either.
Right.
So it's, and the paradox of chemotherapy is that, yeah, it shrinks tumors. Not always, but it does shrink tumors or sometimes make tumors go away. And patients get very excited because they think it's working because it's shrinking tumors. But what invariably happens in many cases is that as soon as they're done with their, first series of chemotherapy treatments, within a few months, they get a follow-up scan and they've got new cancers in new parts of the body. They got spots on their brain or their liver or their lungs or in their bone marrow. And, it's like, how did this happen? What's going on? What's wrong? Well, what happened is that chemotherapy drugs often, while they shrink a tumor, they actually can make the cancer stem cells more aggressive.
Uh-huh.
And they often don't kill the cancer stem cells, which are the instigators of the whole mess. And simultaneously, chemotherapy drugs are causing this collateral damage, head to toe, brain damage, lung damage, liver damage, digestive tract is wrecked, nerve damage, and decimating your immune system. So at the end of treatment, you've got a decimated immune system and more aggressive cancer stem cells that start multiplying and spreading unchecked. That's the paradox of chemotherapy. It's a short-term solution to a long-term problem.
Mm-hmm.
And there are cancers that respond much better to chemo than others, right? I have to be careful not to make too many blanket generalizations here, like childhood leukemia, lymphomas, testicular cancer. The average survival is over 10 years. They have about a 90, all four of those have lymphomas, not quite as good, but childhood leukemia and testicular especially, 90% of patients live 10 plus years or more, and there's a pretty high cure rate. That's great. But breast cancer, brain cancer, liver cancer, lung cancer, ovarian, cervical, sarcomas, bone cancer, those cancers, they have made very little progress in reducing the death rate. And when you actually look at the statistics, it's pretty shocking. The death rate from cancer has only come down about 5% in 60 years.
Mm.
I mean, think about that scorecard. That's horrible.
Yeah.
That is horrible progress. Again, we're averaging here. That's all cancers. But still, we've only reduced the death rate from cancer, which is the pure measure of success here. It's death, right? Are people dying or not from cancer? 5% fewer people are dying from cancer each year than were 60 years ago. So, factored in for population, growth and all that. Anyway, so again, I didn't know all these things. Okay.
But you should have.
Well,
what you're saying now is something that should be open talk with your doctor and all those, but they don't give you that. And
that's true.
Because everybody, like you said, you're an idiot if you don't go down this road.
Right.
So there's a disconnect between what you're saying and what's really happening.
Yeah, and I talk about this a lot in my first book. There's several chapters that are devoted specifically toward explaining how the conventional medical, pharmaceutical, and cancer industries work, right? Because you have to understand how the money flows and the incentives, which many of the incentives in these industries are perverse incentives. In other words, they're not incentivized to actually help people. They're incentivized to prescribe the treatments that make the most money. And it doesn't matter what happens to the person, whether they live or die. It doesn't really matter because this is a $1 trillion industry, right? And so it exists to make as much money as possible. And you think you're going in where everybody just is going to take the best care of you and loves you and all this kind of stuff. And the doctors and all the healthcare workers are just angels, saints and angels, and they are not, right? These are regular people with the same kind of problems and faults and flaws as everybody else. And there are some really, really amazing doctors and nurses out there. And there's some really lousy ones too, right? We got the whole spectrum. There's just as many bad doctors as there are bad plumbers.
That's right.
So yeah, they're a little smarter, but it doesn't mean they're more ethical or more honest or more caring or more sincere, right? It doesn't mean they're not greedy. Doesn't mean they're not callous. It doesn't mean doesn't make them a good person, right? Medical degree does not make you good. And so that is just a myth. right? Doctors have been mythologized by so many TV shows, all these doctor shows that make them out to be just, although they're all just heroes, right? So that's important to understand. And then beyond that, giving doctors the benefit of the doubt, it's the medical system that's really the problem because they're not trained in healing. They're not trained in nutrition. They're not trained in prevention. They're not trained in lifestyle medicine. They're just trained to prescribe drugs or perform procedures. That's what they're trained to do. So they come out with all of this knowledge of biology and on drugs. They're pumped full of all this stuff and they feel really smart, right? But there's a huge gap in their knowledge base. And it's not for lack of information, it's just for lack of education.
Right.
Because there are hundreds of thousands of studies on nutritional science, published peer-reviewed studies on PubMed, that any person, doctor or not, could go read and learn from and incorporate into their life. And so that's what I spend my time doing is reading and learning from these studies and simplifying them and helping people understand that their choices matter. Like what you put in your mouth every day, the way you take care of yourself, the way you live your life, your thoughts and your habits, your actions, they all matter. And each day you're contributing to your future life in either a positive way or a negative way. So you're sowing seeds of health or seeds of disease, and there's going to be a harvest. So that's empowering. I realized that the way I was living was killing me. That was the major epiphany for me. And I didn't feel bad about it, right? I was actually excited because I realized, oh, if I'm doing this wrong, then I can change, right? If I'm contributing to my illness, then I can also contribute to my wellness. And that when you communicate that to someone who's sick, I mean, you can just see when they get it, when the light bulb goes off, I mean, it lights them up, right? It gives them hope and encouragement and enthusiasm and inspiration to take control of their life and to stop operating with this victim's mentality, which is that they have cancer or heart disease or diabetes or MS because they're unlucky, right? Or because their genes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because a lot of people feel like, well, it's in my family. It's just a matter of time.
Well, so only 5 to 10% of cancers are truly genetic, right? And even those, we know through the study of epigenetics that our choices influence gene expression. So just because you have a cancer gene like the BRCA gene for breast cancer doesn't mean you're getting breast cancer. Is your risk higher? Yes. But it's not a guarantee that you'll get it. And your diet and lifestyle choices influence whether or not your genes express themselves. So again, the choice still falls back on you. But there's a lot of research on cancer, and there's certainly debate on this, but there's one study or several, sort of a grouping of studies that have reported that up to 90% of cancers are caused by a poor diet, lifestyle choices, and environmental factors. So those three things, up to 90% of cancers are caused by those three things. And guess what? Those three things are largely in our control. What we put in our mouths, that's your diet, right? Your lifestyle habits and the environment that you live and work in. The environmental factors are a little bit insidious, right? Because a lot of cancer causers in our environment are sort of invisible, right? Like mercury or lead or aluminum. Like you can be exposed to a lot of industrial chemicals, industrial waste, or fumes and things in the workplace that you don't realize are poisoning you slowly over time. But once you kind of wake up to this reality, then you realize, okay, maybe I need to change my job because I'm working around a lot of toxic fumes every day. This is probably not going to end well, right? There's going to be a tipping point in my health where all this exposure is going to cause problems, right? There's only so long your body can detoxify that kind of stuff before you have an accumulation problem. But back to the causes, if you look around the world, there's countries with far, far lower rates of cancer than the United States. And researchers have studied these, you know, every country in the world, every people group in the world. I mean, there's a website called Globocan where you can look at all the cancer rates around the world. And if you look at Globocan, you'll see like the rates of cancer in Mexico are half what they are in the US. Half. What are they doing down there? Right?
Right.
It's not genetic, right? Their diet and lifestyle is different. And so there are countries with cancer rates that are 10 times, 20 times, even 50 times lower for some cancers. And when you piece these things together, which I have in my first book, Chris Beat Cancer, another book plug, you will see that it's largely due to our modern Western industrialized culture, right? We're eating tons of fast food, processed food, and junk food. We're eating way too many animals, way too much meat and dairy. You don't need to be eating meat and dairy 3 times a day every day. Okay, like
I mean, yeah, I mean, everybody does it, and what is it about those foods that causes cancer?
so. And let me say this before I get into that. We live in a rich country, right? The United States, rich country, and when every country that is wealthy ends up having sort of an unlimited food supply. And with that unlimited food supply, there's a lot of factory food, right? Factory farms and highly processed food. So food's everywhere. Like we don't even think about being hungry in the United States unless you're just really, really broke and homeless. Like if you have any money at all, usually you can afford to not miss a meal. And so when you compare the way we live now to other parts of the world that have relative poverty, or even our ancestors, they were eating largely plants, right? A predominantly plant-based diet. And animal food was a luxury. It still is in many parts of the world. They don't have access to or cannot afford to eat a chicken 3 times a day, right? Or to eat a piece of beef. If in many, poor regions, if you're eating beef, it's because there is a feast and someone in the village slaughtered a cow and everybody's feasting, right? And that's once a quarter. So, but we have this unlimited food supply. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is we now know how these foods contribute to cancer. So, processed meat is a group 1 human carcinogen. That's processed meat is bacon, sausage, hot dogs, deli meats like turkey and ham, spam, those are processed meats, pepperoni, stuff like that. They're at the same level of evidence as smoking, according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer. Mm-hmm. So processed meats cause cancers. Colon cancer is the main cancer caused by processed meat. Red meat is a group 2 carcinogen. So that means there's a lot of evidence, not quite as much as group 1, but there's a lot of evidence that red meat, beef mainly, causes colon cancer as well, and also contributes to pancreatic cancer. So that evidence is out there, and it's very strong. So on top of that, you think about all the stuff we're ingesting that the human body was really never meant to ingest, right? All of the artificial flavors and additives and preservatives and colors and texture enhancers, all this junk that they put in processed food and fast food. Your body doesn't know what to do with it. And these are all like little microtoxins. You're not going to get cancer after one Happy Meal, but it's the synergistic toxicity that you are exposed to over time, over many years of your life, where you're exposed to hundreds, if not thousands, of toxic chemicals from manufacturing, from our food supply, from environmental pollution that are over time poisoning you and polluting your body, right? So nobody gets cancer overnight. It's a process that takes many, many years. And so, and again, when you look at the rates of cancer in other countries and you look at their diet, you see, oh, they're not eating all this processed food and junk food and fast food. They're eating mostly plants, right? They're eating very little meat and dairy. Like on average, they're eating about 95% plant-based. So it's not veganism, but they just don't have access to all of the junk food and meat and dairy that we do. They typically get a lot more fresh air and sunshine. They typically are much more active and they're thin, right? They're not overweight or obese. So in terms of the causes of cancer, the major causes of cancer that, if you want to prevent a problem or reverse a problem, you need to know the cause, right? If one day water starts dripping from your ceiling, well, you can put a bucket under it, and you probably should. But if that's all you do, right? If you're just putting a bucket under it to catch the drips, well, eventually, every time it rains, your ceiling is going to get saturated. And eventually your ceiling is going to get so heavy and saturated with water, it's going to cave in. Then you got a huge mess, right? And a much more expensive problem, right? And you still haven't actually solved the cause, right? Now you just have an expensive effect that you have to mitigate or remedy, I should say. You got to get up in the attic or get up on the roof and figure out where the rain is coming in, right? Or figure out if there's a pipe with a leak in it. So the causes of cancer, the number one cause is smoking. Cigarettes are the number one cause of cancer, period. The good news is there's less people smoking now than ever before. So the rates of lung cancer have dropped year after year after year since the 90s, because of all the aggressive anti-smoking campaigns and the science finally. Tobacco companies fought this for years by bribing doctors and scientists to publish fake studies saying that cigarettes didn't cause cancer. And they did this for decades, but it finally broke out in the 80s and became unequivocally clear that it did cause cancer. And that started this downward trend of people quitting, right? And, or not even starting. So that's good. But the second leading cause of cancer is more of a concern now. And the second leading cause is obesity. And this ties back to food, right? And obesity is a sensitive topic because the news didn't want to talk about it. Celebrities don't want to talk about it. Politicians don't want to talk about it because they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, right? They don't want to be accused of fat shaming. But if you love someone, you'll tell them the truth, right? And the truth is, this is not something I made up. This is from all the major cancer research agencies around the world. They're all in agreement. Obesity is the second leading cause of cancer. And the reason it's a cause is because when you're overweight or obese, your body is carrying around all this excess body fat, and it's a burden to all the systems in your body. And excess body fat produces hormones like estrogen that fuel cancer growth. Too much estrogen is bad. It's unhealthy. Excess body fat produces molecules that are inflammatory, that circulate through your body and promote inflammation and autoimmune disease, right? And chronic illnesses like, arthritis or other inflammatory diseases. Inflammation is not good. When you're overweight or obese, your immune cells end up absorbing the excess free-floating fatty acids that are released from your body fat into your bloodstream. And your immune cells become bloated and clogged and obese themselves. And when you have an obese immune system, guess what? You've got a bunch of slow and sluggish immune cells. So the two hallmarks of cancer development are inflammation and immunosuppression. And that is an environment that is created by obesity. So the good news is you can lose weight and reverse this, right? You can lower and reverse your inflammation. You can improve the strength and function of your immune system by getting down to a healthy body weight. 40% of Americans are obese, over 40%. Over 70% are overweight. So we got some work to do, right? We're overweight and obese because there's food everywhere.
People don't really associate exercise with being a cancer fighting thing because that gets into a whole other thing. It makes you sleep better. it helps you to lose weight. And what else does exercise do? And you can keep on going with what you're talking about, but just want to bring that part up.
Yeah, and so that fits in perfectly. It dovetails perfectly with what we're talking about because, again, 90% of cancers caused by diet, lifestyle, and environmental factors. Okay, so the lifestyle factors, that would be smoking, but that would also be exercise or not exercising. And when you exercise, obviously you're burning more calories, so you're promoting weight loss. That's helping your body get into a cancer healing or preventative state. But also, exercise flips on anti-cancer genes in your body. It flips genetic switches that help your body protect against cancer. And it turns off cancer promoting genes. So you're getting this benefit you didn't even realize from exercise, which is cancer prevention. Exercise boosts and strengthens your immune system. Exercise improves and increases detoxification through sweating. You sweat out heavy metals like aluminum, cadmium, uranium, mercury. And these are, cancer causing heavy metals, some of them. And so exercise is incredible and it's so overrated. And people just think, oh, I just need to exercise so I look better in my clothes, right? Or I look better on the beach. And that's great. Everybody wants to look good naked or on the beach. And so those external benefits are wonderful, but the internal benefits are even better. So the other lifestyle factors that contribute to cancer are going to be things like alcohol, right? Drug use, especially prescription drugs. I mean, how many drug commercials have you seen where at the end of the commercial they say may increase the risk of certain types of cancer?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a lot of them, right? Pay attention to
Yeah.
the disclaimer at the end of the commercials. They have to say that by law. So, even one of the most popular drugs out there, female birth control, increases the risk of cancer. So those factors are important too. And then the environmental stuff we kind of already touched on, but what you're putting on your body, the makeup, the lotion, the skincare products, right? The air that you're breathing, the water you're drinking, things like that, those could all also be contributing to your toxic load. It's usually not just one thing. It's usually this, what I call the convergence, right, of, synergistic toxicity or multiple health destroying factors in your life that are all just present for months and years. It's usually years in your life. And then under that is stress. Stress can kind of be looked at as an umbrella cause of chronic disease, or you can couch it in the as a lifestyle factor. Either way, stress is a major root cause of chronic disease. And when we're under stress, when we're constantly in a state of fear or worry or anxiety, like people have been for the last 2 years, if you're constantly wrestling with or struggling with guilt from your past mistakes and shame, if you're holding on to anger and bitterness and resentment toward people in your past or toward people in your present that you don't agree with, right? That are whatever political party you're not. Okay. Like all of those negative emotions produce a stress response in your body. And when you get the stress response triggers the production of adrenaline and cortisol. Those are stress hormones. And when those hormones are elevated above sort of a normal baseline level, they're causing inflammation and they're suppressing your immune system, right? Same thing that obesity does. So stress, short-term stress is not a big deal. We all have little stressful times in our life, like, oh, we got a work project to finish or a school project or, just things just happen, right? Death in the family, that kind of thing. It's the long-term chronic stress. And usually it's a lot of things piled on top of you. It's loss of a job, loss of a loved one, really difficult relationship or marriage, right? Money problems, just personal problems like addictions, all those things stacking up they may all seem compartmentalized, and that's what we tend to do, right? We tend to sort of compartmentalize all our problems, but the reality is they all have one thing in common. They're your problems. They're weighing on you, right? You're carrying them, and they're weighing on your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is aware of your problems all the time, even though you can distract your conscious mind. So what do we end up doing? We self-medicate. We distract our conscious mind from our problems and our pain. And the way we do that is usually through overeating. Food is the number one medication, right? Through alcohol and drug abuse and smoking. Well, those are all cancer causers, right? Mm-hmm. Through other unhealthy lifestyle habits that produce problems down the road, like gambling or running up credit card debt, being a shopaholic, or pornography, sex addiction, or I don't know, I'm drawing a blank, but there's more, right? And so all of the ways that we self-medicate for our pain end up amplifying the problems, the health problems in our life. Like you're compounding your health problems over time. So you got to get to the root cause of your pain. And it's hard to break bad habits if you have not solved the pain problem that is driving you to medicate with that bad habit. And usually people will just substitute one bad habit for another, right? They quit smoking, but they start drinking more, right? Or they quit drinking, but they start eating more, Mm-hmm. So and I talk about this a lot in my first two books about how to do this, how to identify and eliminate the sources of stress in your life that are causing you pain, right? So that you can be free of them. But one of the most powerful things that you can do, and I want to just talk about this before we run out of time, is forgiveness. Forgiveness is such a powerful thing that you do, not for others, not for the people who've hurt you, but for yourself. Because when you choose to forgive the people who've hurt you in life, you are freeing yourself from a prison of pain. When you hold on to anger, you imprison yourself in pain. And the key is on the inside of the door. It's forgiveness. And forgiveness is not a feeling. It's a choice, right? You're choosing to let go of the anger, to not hold it against that person anymore. And you're releasing them to God and just saying, you know what? I forgive them. They're all yours, right? You can deal with them. I'm not holding out for vengeance or justice, right? Doesn't mean you weren't wronged. Doesn't change that fact that someone hurt you and wronged you. But what it changes is the way that you decide to respond to it. And you're deciding not to let that pain persist in your life anymore and have control over you. And so this was huge for me. And I can just tell you, almost every cancer patient I've ever talked to has pretty major forgiveness issues that they have to work through. And I just encourage them, you got to forgive every person who's ever hurt you by name until there's no one left. There's just no one left to forgive. You've just worked through your whole life. You can't do it in one sitting. It takes a little time. But if you set aside time to sit down and think through your life and think through your past and think about and remember all the people who've come in and out of your life who have hurt you in big ways and small ways, then with each memory, you can just stop and say, okay, God, you know what they did. You know how I feel about it. And I'm still mad. I'm still, disappointed. I'm still upset. I'm still hurt. But I'm choosing to forgive them and I'm letting it go and I'm giving it to you. They're all yours, right? You can deal with them. I'm not going to carry this anger and resentment and bitterness anymore. And forgive me for holding on to it for so long, right? I'm letting it go. I'm laying it down. That's the forgiveness prayer. That's it. And if you really want to go the extra mile, and I hope you will, is you say, I'm asking you to bless them, God. Bless the person who hurt me. I don't want you to, but I'm asking anyway. Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah.
I'd rather you didn't, but I'm just going to go ahead. Because, Jesus said, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Right. And so that's what this is. This is showing love to your enemies by saying, you know what, God, I'm asking you to bless them, even though they hurt me. And man, I cannot even explain to you the healing that happens in your heart, the weight that is released from you when you pray this way. And then the other part of the process is just going forward in time. If you start to feel resentment toward that person again, you just have to catch yourself in the moment and say, you know what, whoa, I'm not going to pick this back up, right? I put down the pain. I'm not picking it back up. I forgive them, right? I made the decision and I'm sticking with it for life, because forgiveness is like a healthy diet. It only helps you if you stay on it.
That's right.
Right? It's like, you got to stick with it or it doesn't help. Right. So that is so powerful. And I've seen so many people have incredible turnarounds in their life through forgiveness. Right. And you can eat the perfect healthy diet and do all the take all the supplements and do all the therapies. But if you hold on to anger and you don't forgive, it can be the one barrier to healing that you cannot overcome. And so I just want to encourage your listeners, to start forgiving and be quick to forgive when people hurt you, because people are going to let you down and they're going to hurt you in the future. It's coming, right? You can't avoid it. It's human nature. Sometimes it's deliberate, sometimes it's unintentional, but people are going to frustrate you and hurt your feelings and insult you and let you down and disappoint you. It's going to happen. That's life.
Mm-hmm.
And being quick to forgive is something that I've also, cancer taught me, right? That I've learned to do. Is like, I've been on the internet for 12 years sharing my story and talking about these things. And guess what? There's some really mean people on the internet. And I've heard every insult there is, every insult possible I've absorbed. And anytime something like that happens to me, people are rude to me or whatever, I just forgive them. I try not to be rude back. Sometimes I respond, sometimes I don't, but I just choose to forgive. And so, there's a lot to do, but the big message here is that you have so much control and agency over your life and your choices and your future, right? Your choices today create your future. You don't have to keep going down the same path you're going if you're in a rut, right? You don't have to keep getting unhealthier and fatter and sicker. You don't have to. You can actually break that vicious cycle and start spinning the other direction. And that's what we call the virtuous cycle, where
Right.
your health improves, right? It spirals up. That's what you want to create in your life, is a virtuous cycle. And it all boils down to just changing your daily routine, right? That's what it boils down to. Changing your daily routine, what you're eating, the way you're thinking, the way you're acting, the way you're reacting, the way you take care of your body, the way you deal with stress, right? These are just daily habits that any person can change in their life. We all have the power to change. So I wrote a book called Chris Beat Cancer. I've mentioned it a couple of times. That's my story and explains everything I did to get well and a lot of what I've learned. And then I wrote 2 books in 2020. I had a lot of free time.
Yeah.
And one of them is called Beat Cancer Daily. That's the one over my shoulder here. Right. And that's a daily devotional. So it's like, it's sort of a companion to my first book, but 365 days, you read 1 page per day. And it's just inspiration and encouragement and motivation to take action, just to stay on the healthy path. And then we just published a plant-based cookbook that came out in November of 2021 called Beat Cancer Kitchen. And it's all plant-based, full color, delicious recipes, really easy to make, rave reviews, 500 plus 4 or 5 star reviews on Amazon. So really excited about that new book. And it's just amazing to get that out there in the world and just help people eat better, right? Because what you're putting in your mouth, what you're putting in your body can produce health or disease over time. Like, one meal isn't going to cure you, right? But the point is to create a new routine and get this healing momentum going, right? And then once the ball is rolling, it's easier to keep it rolling. Mm-hmm. That's a principle of physics. And so you know, after over 18 years of living this way and surviving cancer and thriving through it and learning nutritional science, which I didn't know any at the time. I was just operating on instincts and faith, man. you
Right.
know, and I had a handful of books about healing cancer with nutrition. It was like I barely had any resources, but what I did have in copious amounts was I had a strong will to live, and I was willing to change my whole life and give up all my bad habits and get right with God and forgive and run my juicer every day. Like I was willing to do those things. And those are the things that made, the big difference in my health and survival. So I already
And
said it once, but anyone can do what I did. I have no special qualities. I'm not a superhero, regular dude. Anybody can do it.
and I like how it goes beyond just what you eat. There's so much more to it, and you fully go through all of that. And that was very, very powerful stuff that you have there. And I just want to, before we finally go here, what do you say to people who have cancer or who have had cancer and now they're eating meat and cheese and dairy? What do you say to these types of people?
Well, I've learned that most of the people out there, whether they have cancer or not, are not people that I can help or serve because they're not willing to change. So the first thing is a person has to be willing to change. And if a person's willing to change, if they realize it's kind of like AA, right? You have to admit you have a problem, right? So if a person admits they have a problem and they believe they can help themselves through their choices, right? And they are willing to change, then that's the person I'm here to serve. And so if there are people like that in your audience, which I think most of your audience is this type of person, which is why it's always wonderful to speak to like-minded people, then I have so many resources to share with you. I mean, chrisbeatcancer.com has been going for 12 years, and I've interviewed dozens and dozens of people who've healed cancer against the odds. I've interviewed dozens and dozens of doctors and researchers and scientists who understand the power of nutrition and diet and lifestyle choices to prevent and reverse disease. So there's a huge repository of information there. You can just go to the search bar and type in anything, type in vitamin C, type in aloe, type in breast cancer, and you will find incredible actionable information and interviews and resources to help you. And it didn't cost you anything. So of course, I hope you'll read my books, but Chris Beat Cancer is a free site and it'll always be free. And so, just to answer your question more specifically though, like what I'm doing is I'm trying to raise awareness, I guess you could say, that cancer is not this mysterious disease that victimizes people because of bad luck or bad genes, right? The message is one of empowerment. And you have to realize that your choices are contributing to your life. You may have made some choices that have led you down a path of vulnerability to disease. And the good news is, not here to beat you up, right? The good news is that you can now, if you want to get well and if you're willing to change, then you can make different choices. And these are simple things, if you're willing to do them, that pay big dividends, right? It's the simple things that have the biggest impact in our health and our life, like diet, exercise, and stress, right? So like, some people dismiss it because it sounds too easy, but they're not even willing to do the easy things, and so they don't get results, right? They want, unfortunately, a lot of people have been conditioned with what I call magic bullet medicine, which is that, isn't there a drug for my problem? Can I just take a drug and fix my problem? Right? And rarely that's the case. Rarely can a drug fix your problem. If you have a life-threatening bacterial infection, right? Yeah, there's some drugs that can save your life, right? But generally, when it comes to chronic disease, most drugs do not cure people. They just help them live with their disease. They make their disease a little more tolerable. And I'm here to tell you, I've interviewed people who've reversed cancer, autoimmune disease, lupus, multiple sclerosis, heart disease, all kinds of chronic diseases that doctors would tell you are incurable by changing their diet and their lifestyle. So That's the big message of hope, right? That's what I want to communicate to everyone, right? But I also am aware that some people just don't want to change, and it's okay. Like, it doesn't hurt my feelings. I'm not, upset or offended by people that don't want to listen to me or don't like my message. It's totally okay. I'm here to serve the people that want help and want to change. So that's just why I keep doing what I do. And I know in every audience that I speak to, there are people like me that this just clicks with, and they just instantly know this is right. This is what I need to do. So that's what I'm here to do, man.
Well, Chris, thank you for all your time and all of your great wisdom. It's really powerful stuff. And I hope that everybody will check out chrisbeatscancer.com and your books. And you've got a signature program too, right? Square One.
Yeah, we do have a program that is just a little bit more intensive for people that are either they have cancer, right, and it's serious and they want to take some massive life-changing action. We have a program called Square One, and it's a coaching program that we have a lot of people in it, and a private Facebook group, and there's a link to it at the top of my website. It's if you click coaching, you can learn about the Square One program. And I created that after many years of coaching people one-on-one, and just created a course that people can go through. And it's a 10-hour course, which sounds like a lot, but I'm telling you, there's a lot to learn and a lot to do. And it really simplifies things for patients. And then again, we have the private support group. So, and I do live Q&As for our members and things like that. And it's just a really incredible community of people who are either on the healing journey, or they're just really serious about prevention. And they're like, look, I want to learn everything I can do to help myself now to live a life that reduces my risk of cancer, right? And so you can never be cancer proof, but your diet and lifestyle choices and your stress, if you take the right approach, can drastically drop your risk of ever getting cancer, right? You can be in basically the lowest risk category of cancer. And if you've been diagnosed and you're trying to recover and survive and thrive, those same choices, right? The same strategies that I teach in my course can dramatically increase your odds of survival and your quality of life. So, yeah, thanks for bringing it up. That's, that's available for folks as well. And I'll mention one other thing. There's a free download on chrisbeatcancer.com called 20 Questions for Your Oncologist. And there's a link to it on every page of my site. It's easy to find. And that will, if you have cancer, if you're a caregiver of someone who has cancer, please go download that guide, because it will give you the questions that you absolutely need to ask your oncologist that most patients don't ask. They don't know what to ask. And if you don't ask the right questions, you don't get the right answers. And most doctors don't spend enough time with you. As you mentioned in the beginning of this, Anthony, they just don't have enough time to spend with patients to even educate them on their risks and benefits of treatment, or the things they can do at home to help them increase their odds of survival. There's a lot to learn there, and some doctors don't even know this stuff, so they can't even teach it to their patients anyway.
Right.
So the free download, it's a 1-hour audio program with a downloadable transcript and a question list, 20 questions for your oncologist. Yeah, go grab that at chrisbeatcancer.com. You'll learn a lot.
That's great. That's great. And one last thing, I promise you. What are your top cancer killing foods that you should have in your diet on a regular basis?
Yeah, absolutely. So the number one anti-cancer foods are in the vegetable kingdom, and there's two categories. So the first is the allium family, and that's garlic, onions, and leeks. And then the second group, those are basically the top three. And then the second group, rounding out the top 10, is the cruciferous family. So that's broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, bok choy, Brussels sprouts. But all vegetables are amazing. Carrots, beets, spinach, celery, like, all vegetables are wonderful. But those are the top ones. And that's what I ate the most of every single day. In fact, on the cover of my cookbook, Beat Cancer Kitchen, there's a picture of the giant salad. And when you see that picture, you'll see this cornucopia of vegetables, anti-cancer vegetables on there. And that was my standard anti-cancer meal every single day for lunch and dinner. So, yeah. And then the berries. So in the fruit kingdom, berries are the most potent anti-cancer foods, fruits. So blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, cherries, berries are incredible. And they're easy to eat, right? They're delicious. You can put berries in oatmeal. You can put them in smoothies. You can eat them, by the handful. So eating an optimal anti-cancer diet is not difficult. It is very, very easy. And most people find once they just sort of get their little favorite recipes and routines figured out, it's very easy, very sustainable. So that's what Be Cancer Kitchen is really written to do, is help people change their eating habits and discover new foods and new flavor combinations and things that are easy to make and super healthy.
That sounds good. Chris Wark, thank you very, very much for coming to the Vital Blend. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Anthony. It's been fun.
It has been.